It's Throwback Thursday. Ah, yes, the real reason your father didn't want you writing stories growing up is because of the trauma from his own creativity sucking your mother into a fantasy world. This is how millennials deal with childhood trauma.
Inkheart.
There has never been a more blatant or obvious young adult story aimed at just getting children to read. Yeah, I mean, it is the film of the book which just tried to bash books into the subconsciousness of the mind of every young person in the noughties. And you know what? Didn't really work, but it was one last hurrah for the fantasy genre before Twilight changed what it meant to be in the young adult fantasy genre forever. Inkheart stars Brendan Fraser as a legendary book doctor? Boy, Rick O'Connell would beat the shit out of this character, though it is a precursor to him being an English teacher in The Wheel. Anyway, he has the magical ability to read characters out of books and into the real world, but also other items and things, and yet, even when he's completely out of control, he never actually does something that could, end the world, even though that would be super easy to do, doesn't matter. So he brings a bunch of dangerous people out of a book accidentally and then brings his wife into the book and then leaves her trapped there and can't figure out how to get her back out because he can't find a copy of this book anywhere for a decade. So what we have here is a bit of silly fantasy nonsense with a ridiculously overqualified cast. And I'm not just talking about Brendan Fraser, Paul Bettany, but also Jennifer Connelly, Sienna Gilroy, Andy Serkis, and I mean Jim Broadbent and Helen Mirren both also just turn up. And it's all for the perfect case of don't judge a book by its cover, because you see this looks like a real big fantasy film, but really it's just a very basic globetrotting movie with not that much excitement. Or plot. I like this more than some of the noughties fantasy films, which just should have remained as books. I think it's got the problem that despite there being a lot of bad guys around with weapons, there's just hardly ever an action scene or fighting or anything like that going on. So it's really trying to give it the look of some epic fantasy war thing when it's just not. And the book wasn't an action-oriented book. So trying to make it look like that as a film and then just not doing anything with that is very depressing. The Secret of Moonacre I rewatched recently, and it had massively the same problem. This kind of manages with the finale that seems to have some stuff going on, but not really. And it really is pushing the boat out, especially on this whole idea that it starts out, these people have the special ability to read stuff out of the book. Great. Then it's like, oh, but the author of the book can change what happens in it. And it's like, all right. But then it gets to the point where this little girl can just scrawl shite on her arm to make armies get Thanos snapped. And it's like, what? So the real question here is, could these people that have this ability still get the people out of the book or do things like that if they were reading from a Kindle? These are the things that make you wonder. Anyway, it's not a terrible film. I'm just saying it really sells itself the wrong direction. And the problem with the fantasy genre is, in a book, it's fine for the fantasy genre not to have much action. In film format, even if it would be fine, and they could get away with it, they always direct it that way to make it seem like some big action thing just because it's fantasy. And it doesn't have to be, but that's what they kind of sold this as and tried to gear it towards, and it's not what the story was at all. I do feel like if you grew up watching this, then you probably are bisexual. Seems genuinely like this is probably the worst ever case of wasting literally countless worlds of potential, because you could have any character from any book ever, and you just use it to make a bunch of half-hearted Wizard of Oz references? How depressing is that? Great cast, though, I gotta say. I mean, Helen Mirren just riding around a unicorn randomly, awesome. Paul Bettany as dark, sad fireboy, ooh, yeah, loved it. But despite there being a lot of great characters, great cast, there's no real good plot, at all. The entire plot is just, so do you think his daughter can also do it? Yep. Imagine that. The young lead in a in a young adult novel is special in some way. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm giving the original fan cast, because the author of this book actually wrote this role for Brendan Fraser, 2.5 stars. I want us to go back and redo the naughties, but just give Brendan Fraser every big role. All of them. Just everything. It's just, I feel like he's such a prime, oh man. And there's so few roles to actually go back and enjoy him in from that time. Especially good ones. Some of them just suck.